I am a small gray house mouse, not the kind humans imagine when they hear scratching in the walls. Not filthy, not wild, not dangerous. I love warmth, quiet, corners, crumbs of buttered toast, the smell of coffee drifting through morning sunlight, and I love listening. Humans think they hide themselves well. They do not. They hide things with words, but their footsteps tell the truth. Their silence tells even more. A long pause at the dinner table, a sigh behind a closed door, a car engine left running in the driveway long after midnight. Those are the sounds that reveal what hearts are trying to survive. For 3 winters, I lived inside the wall, behind the fireplace of a beautiful house on Willowcrest Drive. From there, I watched what looked like a perfect American life. A handsome husband, a graceful wife, a teenage son with a bright future, holiday lights in December, summer barbecues on the back deck, soft jazz in the kitchen on Friday nights, fresh flowers on the dining table, neighbors smiling with quiet envy, guests always saying, "You have such a beautiful home." But houses can be beautiful and still be full of fear. I know, because one rainy Thursday night, I heard a grown man crying alone in his car. And for 8 long months after that, I listened to an entire family slowly begin to break around a truth none of them understood. The man's name was Daniel Hale. He looked like the kind of man life rewards. Tall, confident, pressed shirts, polished shoes, a calm voice, a firm handshake. The kind of husband other men respected. The kind of father sons admired. The kind of women called dependable. He carried himself like stone. Solid, steady, unshakable. But stone cracks too, usually from pressure no one sees. Daniel used to come home every evening at 6. Always 6. His keys landed softly on the marble counter. His jacket hung neatly by the door, and he would call out, warm and easy, "Claire, I'm home." From the kitchen, Claire would answer, "Dinner's almost ready." Then came laughter, plates clinking, music low in the background. The small, ordinary sounds that make a house feel alive. Then 6 became 7, 7 became 8, 8 became midnight. And eventually Daniel began sitting alone in his black sedan outside the house for long stretches in darkness. Engine off, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, as though opening the front door had become the hardest thing in his life. Inside, Claire waited, at first with patience, then worry, then hurt, then suspicion, then silence, and silence is where love gets sick. Claire Hale was beautiful, in a way cameras never fully capture. Not glamorous, not loud, quietly radiant, kind eyes, gentle hands, a smile that softened rooms. But loneliness began changing her. Her smile came less often. Her eyes grew tired. She began speaking in shorter sentences. Dinner grew colder before it was touched. Wine glasses stayed full. Candles burned low over meals no one really tasted. Then came the scent. One night, Daniel walked in carrying the clean, expensive smell of hotel soap. Not perfume, not lipstick, no obvious sign. Just something unfamiliar. Something that did not belong to their home. Claire noticed. Women notice changes men think invisible. She said nothing. But that night, she stared at the ceiling until sunrise. The next morning, she slipped off her wedding ring while washing dishes. She left it beside the sink and never put it back on. 3 days later, she followed him. She parked across the street from an elegant downtown hotel and watched Daniel walk inside beside a tall, dark-haired woman in a charcoal coat. The woman touched his arm gently. Not intimate, not distant. Comfortably close. Close enough to break trust. Claire drove home, gripping the steering wheel so tightly, her hands trembled. That night, she cooked Daniel's favorite dinner: steak, rosemary potatoes, red wine, candles lit, music playing softly. A beautiful table prepared for heartbreak. Halfway through dinner, she looked him in the eye and asked, "What is her name?" Daniel froze. What? The woman worth losing me for? The room became still. Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Claire nodded slowly. That silence answered everything she feared. She stood. No screaming, no shattered glass, only quiet devastation. Then she said words colder than winter. "I could survive betrayal, but I cannot survive being made a fool." She walked upstairs. At midnight, she quietly packed a suitcase. Daniel came into the bedroom and stopped cold. The suitcase sat on the bed, clothes folded neatly inside, passport on top. His voice cracked. "Are you leaving?" Claire looked at him with eyes full of pain and exhaustion. Then she said no. A pause. "I already left months ago. My body just stayed." And in that moment, even I, a tiny creature in the wall, understood that something sacred had just shattered. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed and broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one exhausted man collapsing under invisible weight. Then he whispered, "You deserve the truth." The next morning, Claire opened the locked drawer in Daniel's office. Inside were red envelopes, foreclosure notices, bank warnings, legal letters, debt schedules, asset liquidation documents, emergency financial filings. Page after page after page. Claire sat on the floor, surrounded by paper, and slowly realized she had misunderstood everything. Daniel was not having an affair. Daniel was bankrupt. His company had collapsed almost a year earlier. A disastrous acquisition. Hidden debt. Investors gone. Lawsuits rising. Assets frozen. The house was nearly gone. Their savings were nearly gone. His retirement was gone. His private heirlooms were sold. His father's watch sold. His guitar collection sold. His grandfather's cufflinks sold. Even the old lake cabin he loved since childhood sold. Everything quietly sacrificed. Everything sold for one reason: time. More time for his family to feel safe. More time for Claire to smile. More time for Ethan to finish school without fear. More time before the world fell apart. And that elegant woman at the hotel, a restructuring attorney, not a lover, not betrayal, only paperwork and bad news dressed in expensive clothes. Claire finally understood why Daniel sat outside every night. He was grieving before he walked through the front door. But truth was still deeper than ruin. That evening, Claire placed a folder in front of him. Medical records, heart scans, test results. A severe heart condition, progressive, dangerous, months old. Daniel stared, stunned. You knew? Claire nodded. For 6 months. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice trembled. Because I saw you drowning. She wiped away tears. And I thought if I climbed onto your back with my pain, we'd both sink. Daniel fell to his knees. 2 people, same home, same bed, same fear. Each suffering in silence to protect the other. Each accidentally building a wall neither could climb. Then came the final wound. Their son Ethan had known the family was in trouble. He found papers months earlier, but instead of asking questions, he judged. He believed his father had become selfish, dishonest, weak. He blamed him for destroying the family. He left home in anger. For weeks he ignored every call. Then Claire told him the truth. Everything. The debt, the sacrifice. The nights Daniel sat crying alone in his car, the possessions quietly sold, the fear quietly carried. Ethan came home the next day. He walked into the kitchen, looked at his father, and for the first time in his life saw not a hero, not a provider, not a wall of strength, but a tired man, worn thin by love. Ethan broke down. I thought you stopped loving us. Daniel pulled him close and whispered, No, son. I just got lost trying to carry too much alone. Within weeks, they lost the beautiful house. The black sedan disappeared. The expensive furniture was sold. Friends stopped calling. Invitations vanished. Admiration faded. Success has many friends. Failure reveals who truly loves you. They moved into a small rented townhouse with thin walls and worn floors. Tiny kitchen, no marble, no grand staircase, no polished illusion, only truth. And strangely, truth gave them back what wealth had quietly stolen. Daniel came home before sunset. Claire laughed again. Real laughter. Warm laughter. Messy laughter. Ethan stayed close. They cooked cheap meals together, burned toast, shared soup, sat shoulder to shoulder on an old couch, held hands in healing silence. Claire began treatment. Daniel started over, slowly, honestly. Together, I moved with them. Of course I did. There are walls here too. Smaller walls, kinder sounds. No midnight tears in parked cars. No untouched dinners growing cold. No silence sharp enough to wound. Only ordinary struggle, ordinary love. And after living inside human walls, I know this. Families rarely break because of one terrible truth. They break because good people carry pain alone for too long. Because pride dresses itself like strength. Because fear disguises itself as protection. Because silence grows heavier than honesty. And sometimes, the person you think has betrayed you is the person quietly bleeding to keep your world standing. So before you judge the quiet one, ask what burden they carry. Before you walk away, listen one moment longer. Because sometimes the coldest person in the room is the one standing closest to the fire, making sure everyone else stays warm.